my gender performance wasn't really masculine, and there was a constant pressure to conform. And I very, very often used to want to be straight.
And you know, they always say, like, if you have an option of taking a pill and it would, you know, make you not gay anymore, would you take it? In high school, I would have paid whatever I could to get that pill.
As a female who's 24 in the South Asian community, I'm getting to that point where they're starting to ask, you know, well, is there a boy? Should we start looking for you? And like all of those like things. And I think they come from men a lot later, or they can get away with it a lot longer. But it starts pushing you against that wall going, if I don't come out, then I'm just gonna have to keep playing these things. Either keep going along with the boys and whatever, or coming out to them, which my parents aren't ready with. And so it's a back and forth and it's a constant struggle. And I wish I had the answers, I don't.
I've been having sexual thoughts about men, about males, since I was 6. But to know that it wasn't supposed to be talked about, it wasn't cool, it wasn't what real guys did. It was just something that I forced myself to do. That I just said, you know, okay, well, but we won't talk about it, but you won't tell any of your friends about it, but you can't tell your parents about it. And everything stemmed from that, you know, that. So I did it to myself, you know. I kept myself from sharing who I am with everyone.
Sex is so taboo in the South Asian community in general that, like, sometimes when I'm just sitting around with a group of girlfriends, female friends, not women I'm having relationships with, of course, you know, kissing or making out or just, you know, things that people talk about when you're talking about relationships, that there's always like a silence when it's like we're talking about 2 guys, or I'm talking about a person I'm going out with. Like, they're curious, they want to know, but like, there's some details that I guess I just wouldn't share with them because I know their uncomfortability, and I guess that does contribute to my experience of what homophobia is, right?
Was that like 10 years ago, where his whole life was filmed?
I know which one you're talking about, but I can't remember what it's called.
It was like
Or we can start some gay version of bromance.
No.
Because they almost make it feel like South Asian and queer don't belong together. It's almost like they're opposites. I've had friends tell me, and I know they don't mean this in a like malicious way, and they're like, you're almost not brown now because you're like gay. And I'm just like, what does that mean? Like, I can do Bhangra better than you, I can like speak more languages than you, I'm more up on my Bollywood, and like I'm as brown as they get, but I'm also as Canadian as they get. And you know, like eventually you just realize that they're all labels and who cares for them. Like, I just have learned to be who I am.
Here we are, you know, we exist, and I guess I'm an advocate for something. I'm being someone. I am someone that can be contested at times, but I'm also South Asian, and no other South Asian person can deny me that. So I have the right to say to them that, no, I am also South Asian. I am gay, and yes, there's gay South Asians in your community because I say there are, and I know I'm right, and that feels good.
We talk about being queer as one thing that's difficult, however you identify or if you choose not to identify. Add in the idea of your family and what we know as South Asians with our families and with issues that we've had or not had or that our friends have had. In the same way, there's an extra level of of that. A lot of us have probably experienced like racism and stuff along those lines too. So you have to sort of include both.
Compared to my Caucasian friends, for example, I think it's been a lot harder for me as like my experience being queer and South Asian. So there's just more to face, and like there's so many cultural inhibitors in terms of like in my personal experience, I of course don't want to speak too generally, but in my personal experience, like I've noticed like I don't want to say a lack of open-mindedness, but sometimes like the culture causes a little bit of an unwillingness to understand sometimes.
Yes, I'm queer. Yes, I'm South Asian, but you know, I'm never like, oh my God, I'm a son. Oh my God, I'm a brother. Oh my God, I'm a boyfriend. Oh my God, you know, I'm a nephew. Like I carry so many identities with me, and like being queer is just one of them, and being South Asian is just one of them, and being a money-grabbing whore is just one of them, and you know, they're all just things that I am, and I love and embrace each and every one of them.
Just this past July, when I had my birthday, because I live in Waterloo, I had a lot of my friends come to Toronto to celebrate, and we got a couple of hotel rooms at the Sheraton, right downtown Toronto. And one of my friends, though, when he came back to the hotel, he was bleeding. He was bleeding from just from the top of his head. The first thing he said was, "I got beat up in the elevator." And I said, "Who? Why?" And he said, "It was a group of brown guys," is what he said to me. And so I was just shocked, I think. I helped in sort of getting him to the hospital, making sure every practical, logical thing was taken care of. I kind of sat down and had my moment where I just started crying uncontrollably. And it wasn't loud, it was just very silent in my corner in the waiting room. And I just saw him with blood coming out of his head. And another moment where he was sleeping and I was just sitting by his bedside, and I thought, wow, how alone are we? And how scary is this world? This was this amazing city that I'm in, a city that I call home. But in the most liberal of liberal places, I was made to feel like, no, you belong in a little box where Church and Wesley is, and don't dare step out of it. And I was sad and I was angry. It upset me that, it was unsettling to hear that he was attacked by people who were described to be of some South Asian heritage.
Coming back from my first Pride actually is probably a good one for that. So I was 20, and it was the first time I had ever said, okay, that's it, I'm going. And I went with a group of friends, and it was such a great and positive experience. You know, it was just so much fun, and everyone was just in this great united spirit of pride and happiness and joy and blah, blah, blah. And as we sort of started coming back closer and closer to the city of Mississauga, which is where I live, it just, you know, the rainbows started getting off because they all lived in Toronto, I guess. And eventually I was the only one with my friends with our rainbow flag on the bus back to Square One in Mississauga. And when we got to Square One, there was this guy there, a couple of guys there in the bus terminal, and he was just looked at us and said, "Oh, there are the fags with their like celebrations or whatever." And it was just such a come down from, you know, that great feeling. And then you move into, okay, well, here we are back home where, you know, and not to say that all of my experience with Mississauga is that just full of homophobia, but, you know, that experience was just so annoying to have after such a great day.
This is a few years ago, even before I realized I was gay. And I was working for the student union. I remember taking a bus ride with this guy who worked with us, and I don't even know how we got into the discussion. Like I must say, like, I in my world, I don't think people like this exist anymore, but I guess I was mistaken. And he's just like, I think all gay people should be killed, or like what happens to them, it's justified. And I was like, excuse me, like, what the hell are you getting at? And we're on a bus, right? And I was ready to like argue back and forth, and it's just his belief systems. And I was trying to figure out if they stemmed from his religion, or if he thought they stemmed from his religion, because I have Muslim friends who are very accepting, and like, so like, I know it doesn't stem from the religion, but I was like, maybe that's where he learned it. And he was just like, yeah, I know, I think what happens to them is justified. And they like bring it upon themselves and they should get beaten up and this and that. And I just got so worked up over it. And then like the counter side of it, he's like, but I think lesbians are cool. And I just like, I was sitting there and I was just like, you know, it would be very like ignorant of me to just turn around and smack him, because like that was my instinct. It was like, oh my God, right? Like, and it was just like no amount of like logic or anything would like make it happen. But all I remember I did is I went to the student union the next day going, this man cannot volunteer for us, period. You know, but like other than that, like you really rarely come across instances like that, and those are so usually so outrageous that like you're just like, wow, this isn't even logic based, it's just like dumb.
God, when I was in high school, I would have given anything not to be gay. Like, it was really hard. I remember like other guys would criticize the way I walked, would criticize the way I spoke, would, you know, just pick on me for like everything, saying, oh, that's gay, or why are you like that, or are you like that, or what's wrong with you? And
Oh, you're so gay. Oh, you act gay, your voice is gay, you sound gay, whatever. It was just a huge problem to them for some reason.
I had been labeled as a fag, as gay, or as effeminate, or being like a girl, or different, as young as grade 3 and 4.
Really unbelievable to look back on now, being 14. It was almost 12 years ago. To be having these thoughts, and they would come naturally to me. And so I would, let's say, think about a guy in a class or in school in a sexual context, and then tell myself that I could never talk about that. And like I would actually tell myself, you can't talk about this, you can't tell people that this happens, no one can know about this.
I remember this one time where I was in a class where they were teaching us how to properly shake hands with someone and how to like make yourself presentable and proper, and this guy from across the room just goes, and don't do it in a gay way. And like luckily before I spoke up, someone else was like, what does that even mean? Like, does that mean don't be like a gay woman? Does it mean don't be like a man? Like don't be like what does that even mean?
I hated being gay in high school. You couldn't, like, all my friends, like, I loved my friends, but as one of, I couldn't relate to other guys, so all my friends were a group of females. So I never really got to explore my sexuality in high school. My sexuality was very, you know, like either all the guys dated girls, and I wanted to date other men, and that wasn't a possibility for me.
From grade 4, when I first started thinking I might like boys, or I was teased about sexuality, gender, whatever it was. From that point to now, I mean, if I've come so far, and I've had, I've had to battle homophobia and racism, a lot more homophobia, and so doing all of that, living my life, all challenges, and then I had to get to a point where I had sorted through so much, I had reconciled so much, I was at peace with so much, that I was ready to come out to my family. And that was the last piece of the puzzle.
And so I think a lot of these times people don't even realize that they're being homophobic, or that they don't even understand what that means, except for maybe the person who's going through all of this identity confusion, or like trying to come out, and if anything, it just makes a hostile environment for someone to feel that like they can't come out, or like they won't be accepted.
Coming out to my mom has been really difficult. I actually have only come out to her probably 6 months ago. And even that wasn't by choice. She found out through somebody else, and then she basically called me up and asked me, and that was a very difficult telephone conversation. There was tears, there was disappointment, there was anger, frustration, you know, lots of blame. And I think it was much harder to come out to my mother just because I cared so much what she thought of me.
It took me, a year and a half to realize and come to terms with stuff, and it takes us years to come to terms with our sexuality, and so we need to give them that time. And I'm trying to give them that time. It's only been a year, and I'm trying to see if they'll ask me questions, and I try to bring it up now and then. And I laugh when they bring a rishta to my door, or like ask me if I'm interested in a boy. But it's a constant struggle and a process. Coming
out to my family was the big climax in the story, because I had to do so much changing and and growing and learning to be able to do that. Because I know so many people that are my age or 10 years older than me who can't do that, who have never been able to sort through so many things and then had that eventual, I guess, I'm presuming that is their goal, but to be able to be comfortable enough and do so much personal work to be able to come out to their families when they know it's not going to be received well.
My dad, we don't really have a close relationship. Like, he's never been an active part of my life. So when I was 18, when I was 16, he just came over one day and was like, you know, so I found this girl, she's in India, like, you know, you might want, you're at that age, might want to consider things like marriage. And I was just like, I am not into women.
We come out to our parents, or I know I did, with the expectation that they would want to educate themselves. I said to them, I'm telling you I'm gay, not because I really, really need you to accept me. That would be great. And in the back of my mind, I think that's all I've wanted for a very long time. But what I said to them was that what I need from you is to tell me you still want to be part of my life. I'm giving you a chance to know me, so take it. And if it's easier for you, for me to not be here, then I won't. And immediately, they did the I love you, I just can't accept this. And that's where the process began. And I think we're at 2.5 years, and we're still working on it.
Me coming out is like something I'm proud of, whereas for her it's like, oh my god, this is not something anyone should ever know. Like, it's just not. And to me, that almost makes me, I think at times, and I'm not proud of saying this, but it almost makes me self-homophobic. I don't know if there's like a proper word for this or anything, but like, it just, because it makes it so hard for her, and then I feel so guilty, but then I know I'm not supposed to feel guilty.
And don't want you to go and tell other members of the family and stuff like that.
The minute you come out, the assumption is made that like you've thrown your values out and that you don't believe in like family and all of that. And it's been a hard battle trying to convince my family that like none of my core values have changed in terms of how I feel about them or family or how I feel about, you know, marriage or any of that. Like the only thing that's changed is that my partner will be a woman instead of a man.
I came out to my father a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I'm not really sure. And I did it at a point where I knew I could be financially independent, and I pretty much told him, you know what, I don't think I'm gonna marry a woman. And so he said, oh, okay. And then I said, I'll probably marry a man and have children with him. And I saw his eyes go into the back of like the sockets of his head, and it was I've never actually seen that sort of a visceral reaction from someone, so it was quite interesting. And obviously his initial concern was, I don't think you understand, but sex is a really important thing, and you won't really be able, and it's a spiritual thing, and you won't be able to experience it with another man. And I looked at him and I told him, it's spiritual for you with a woman because that's what you like. It's spiritual for me as a man because that's what I like, and this is what I want to do. You know, this is, you know, not, this has, you know, I will get everything out of sex that you got out of sex with a woman, I will get out of a man.
Being a single mother and raising 3 kids, I'm so proud of the job that my mom has done. And she had to go through so much shit to get to where she is now and to bring us up. But I feel as if, because I came out to my mother 6 months ago, it's still a very fresh process, that although it was really hard, we went through the tears, we went through the, you know, I know you, this is not who you are, but I think at some point I do feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because she's worked so hard and struggled only to make sure that we're happy and that she's happy with the family that she's created. And there's a part of me that still believes that as long as I'm happy at the end of the day, she'll feel like she's done enough.
Because we're queer or we're coming out to them, they see like the negative connotations to it. They aren't us. They don't see it as, in spite of all of the negative, like I didn't choose to have to fight through all of this and like deal with everything. But in spite of that, I'm much happier than I would have been if I hadn't become who I am. And I think I guess I have that hope too, that someday they'll realize that what they want from me is happiness, and that this brings me true happiness, instead of following the societal values and being unhappy with something that isn't me, or it's a construct of what other people have made for me.
the first question I'm asked when I tell people, that I'm gay, after their initial shock is, how does your family deal with it? Is your family okay? Are they upset? Do your parents know? You know, and then it gets into, and then if I have South Asian heterosexual friends, they'll say something like, have you told your grandparents or your aunts and uncles?
And like, I know I'd still want to be there for my parents and stuff, and it's been a hard battle, like you said, where sitting there and going, well, I know you don't accept me for who I am, but I'm going to try to wait it out and hope that you get there and in the process realize that my feelings towards family or you haven't changed in the process. And it's a constant battle, because there's days when I just want to go, well, if they can't accept me, then why am I trying so hard and I need to start living my life?
I've told them a secret, and now they're in a closet because they have a secret just like I did. And so by me coming out of my closet, I put them in one, because now they have information they didn't necessarily solicit, but they have it and don't know what to do with it. So yes, don't tell extended family members till I have sorted this out. Don't tell anybody else. Who else knows? They're worried about who knows what about their family, because this family unit seems to be, how the unit is represented in public seems to reflect very strongly on their individual identity.
You know what? I've chosen to tell you this because I've assessed the risk of losing you. And if you want to accept me today, don't accept me because, you know, don't tell me 10 years from now, oh, I accepted you even though you were gay. Accept me, because if you don't accept me, you're losing a very loving, intelligent, caring son who, you know, has done nothing but good for you. So, you know, accept me for yourself, not for me.
I don't want to say that no other cultures, no other ethnic backgrounds are raised to incorporate the family the way we are into life, but I feel like, having experienced many different backgrounds within my friends' families and acquaintances' families, there is sort of a uniqueness to the way South Asians use family and have family together, and family understandings and all those kinds of things. And so saying something like knowing that, say, your parents don't accept you, as you were saying, and don't want you to go and tell other members of the family and stuff like that, you can't just turn around and say, well, screw it, I'm just doing whatever and walking away. There is something there that ties us to it, and that really links to what you're saying about like how your feelings towards your parents haven't changed. Your feelings about family don't change just because you come out of the closet. They are what they are. They are how we've been raised, and we believe that they're right. So that just makes us pulled in two different directions, as opposed to, I don't know, maybe more unified at one time or another, more whole.
Either you're taking on the task to stand up for people and hoping more people will come out and you can make them feel stronger, or as an individual you're fighting to be who you want to be without worrying that you might be the only one.
There's a lot more work that needs to be done to rid ourselves of the discrimination against the LGBTQ community, to say that I can be queer and South Asian and say run for public office and say be premier or be prime minister or something like that.
Yeah, I think I'm really starting to live who I am more now, and my sexual orientation, because I'm dealing with it and I've dealt with it in such a lengthy, thought-driven process, that I'm more comfortable with it, so it doesn't have to be in the forefront all the time.
I just feel that once we have become comfortable with our identities, we all have a role to play and a responsibility to make sure that, you know, like, I know how hard it was for me, and you know what, maybe it was probably a lot easier for me than it was for someone 10 years ago or 15 years ago. But it is now, I feel, my responsibility to make sure that people after me, youth after me, don't feel the problems or have less problems to deal with as they come out. Because just coming to terms with your sexuality in itself is really hard in this society. And then on top of that, adding all the problems of family and worries about like guilt and fear and like non-acceptance, just the more that you can remove from the process, the easier it is for an individual. And so I definitely do feel like we have a responsibility towards them.
You can be of a lower income status or high income status. You could be someone of disability or ability. You can be someone of various ethnicities and races. And in all of those groups, you still have a sexual minority. And so being that sexual minority, I came to see all marginal identities as equal. So I began to see that while being gay was okay, being everything you are is okay. And homophobia and racism are not okay.